Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could please ask you to take your seats. We're about ready to begin the morning session. It's really a big honor for us to begin also here in this very famous theater and one of the main theaters of the earlier City West. Berlin, here on Kurfürstendamm. Today is now the second day of our Congress, World Without Walls, and we have really a special honor for the morning to introduce Ms. Anna Trisic Babic, who is now the Deputy Foreign Minister of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Really, she's a woman who knows about walls, she knows about violence, she knows about peace, and I think Bosnia-Herzegovina, what we have is a fascinating case of a country that has been grappling almost constantly with this question of identity, nation, region, Serbs, Croatians, in every sense. And I think really it's a process that on the one hand, of course, very difficult, it's very challenging, but I think it gives you also a chance and a perspective to discuss this issue of a world without walls like no one else can. So in that sense, really, it's a special honor that you came the distance to come here to Berlin. We're very much looking forward to the presentation. The title of the presentation, I'll just read it out loud here. We have a Euro-Atlantic perspective of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So if I could please ask everyone to give a very, very warm welcome to Ms. Anna Trisic Babic. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning to everyone, and first of all, I would like to say just a short few words. I couldn't, 20 years ago actually, at the same day I came to London. My parents sent me to study, and everything started with Berlin Wall falling down. And then people in London, they were, telling to me, look what is going on, do you know what does this mean? And I really couldn't realize 20 years ago, when I was 22, what that means. And that's something what I remembered when I came yesterday here to Berlin. And this is really now my honor to be here, 20 years of the Berlin Wall, and I can say a little bit, I will read what happened in my region, in my country, for the last 20 years. So it's really my great pleasure to address this distinguished gathering. I would like to convene my sincere gratitude for extending invitation and given opportunity to speak about Bosnia and Herzegovina, current state of play, challenges we are facing, and future we are hoping for. The fall of the Berlin Wall in November 1989 was the event that announced a reunification of Germany. The Iron Curtain fell between Western Europe and Eastern Bloc. Formation of United Europe has begun. I remember well the Eurovision Song Contest held in May 1990 in Zagreb, Croatia, and Italian representative Toto Cutugno winning this contest with the song Insieme 1992. The lyrics of several entries celebrated the wave of democratization that had encircled Central and Eastern Europe with astonishing speed in the preceding months, focusing especially on the iconic moment of the Berlin Wall being breached. However, the winning song was an even more sweeping evocation of European unity in anticipation of the completion of the European single market due at the end of 1992. While Europe was on its way of uniting, the former Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia was entering one of the darkest chapters in its history, dissolution and series of bloody conflicts. The identity of the region is dominated by its geostrategic position. Historically, this area was known as the crossroad of various cultures as well as the area of conflicts and instability. Through the history, the order existed as long as peaceful coexistence imposed by political repression instruments of multinational and multi-ethnic dictatorship. Such it was the case of the ex-Yugoslavia. The fall of the Iron Curtain, the disappearance of the dictatorial bracket of the Yugoslav self-government socialism, saw the beginning of military conflicts in the former Yugoslavia. While the countries of Central and Eastern Europe devoted their efforts to transforming their structures with the view to membership of the European Union, the disintegration of multi-ethnic and multi-religious state set the stage for tragedy of war. Unfortunately, at that moment, neither the United States nor the European Union had a clear strategy towards the region. The main task of the whole international community in the late 80s was to perpetuate the old communist regime instead of seeking to facilitate peaceful resolution of transformation of Yugoslavia. Nevertheless, it is possible that the solution process might have been more peaceful if the European Union and United States had acted differently and if they were capable to immediately and consistently react and had a clear crisis management strategy. In the aftermath of violent conflicts that marked the recent history of the region, the European Union considers as a priority and fundamental aim for the Western Balkans region to create a situation where military conflict is unimaginable, to expand to the region and make it the area of peace, stability, prosperity and freedom, as it is the case in the European Union and its member states. There is only one choice if the lasting peace is to be achieved: the involvement of the entire region in the process of European integration as possibly the most effective stimulus for fostering eternal reforms and transformation. Founded on a need to maintain lasting peace, security and stable democratic and overall development, as well as to integrate Bosnia and Herzegovina into modern political, economic and security flows, Euro-Atlantic integration is set as one of strategic priorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina foreign policy. As of signing the Dayton Peace Accords in 1995, Bosnia and Herzegovina has made a long way, but without any doubt, Bosnia and Herzegovina has to move forward to its final destination, that is membership in Euro-Atlantic structures. Just to remind you that 1996, Bosnia and Herzegovina had more than 400,000 soldiers within 3 armies. At the same time, NATO deployed around 70,000 soldiers. In 2008, that number decreased to 2,000 soldiers of the European Union with a different mandate than the one of the NATO mission back in 1996. None of the foreign soldiers taking part in peace support operation in Bosnia and Herzegovina has been killed, which proves readiness of our people to preserve lasting stability and peace. Bosnia and Herzegovina has been implementing a broad range of reforms with the aim to move from the position of being a recipient of international peace efforts to the position of being an active contributor towards peace and security. Also, reforms are aimed at smoother integration into collective security structures and attaining ability to respond to new challenges. Our officers, soldiers and policemen have been taking part in a number of peace support operations worldwide. Since 2000, they have been giving their contribution to a number of UN peace operations, such as in Liberia, Sudan, East Timor, Cyprus, Haiti, Ethiopia, Eritrea and Congo. Armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina supported Operation Iraqi Freedom with 8 rotations of the Explosive Ordnance Disposal Unit, as well as with 1 infantry platoon. The latest and probably the most important example of our engagement in participation in the NATO-led ISAF mission in Afghanistan. With regard to our relations with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, we have arrived at a significant level of cooperation since the formal admission of Bosnia and Herzegovina to NATO Partnership for Peace program in December 2006. We have taken advantage of available PFP instruments and much more, clearly demonstrating that we are a credible partner for the Alliance, standing ready to share the burden of today's concerns. Recently, we submitted our application Member Action Plan, which would bring us to the level of candidate status. Our expectations are high, but still real. We have invested a lot, and obtaining the Membership Action Plan would be recognition for our efforts and great incentive to move forward. We are satisfied with the outcome of the latest NATO summit, especially for the fact that the open door policy has been once again reiterated. The reality shows that each NATO enlargement brought more stability and security to the Euro-Atlantic community. It is a great encouragement for us to do even more and engage more in joint activities aimed at raising the level of interoperability. Fulfillment of political criteria is crucial, and reforms will raise the standard of living and bring better life to our people. Defense reform is one of the most successful reforms in Bosnia and Herzegovina and is still underway. Armed forces that consist of 10,000 professional soldiers are under civilian supervision of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina as the Command-in-Chief of the armed forces. Last year was featured by Bosnia and Herzegovina's progress with regard to its relation with the European Union. We signed a Stabilization and Association Agreement, an interim agreement on trade and trade-related issues in June 2008. Followed by the financing agreement for the Instrument for Pre-Accession Assistance National Programme. Implementation of the interim agreement has begun on July 2008 and is going smoothly. Also, we are in process of visa liberalization with the European Union completing tasks from the roadmap. NATO path and the EU path are seen as complementary. At the moment, due to internal disagreements and absence of enthusiasm to tackle serious issues, we have come to sort of the standstill. No wonder that recently revealed EU progress report on Bosnia and Herzegovina brought some justified criticism, meaning that limited or no progress has been achieved in a large number of important areas. With regard to visa liberalization process, I would like to stress that it is immediately required by the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Recently, the EU granted liberalized visa regime to Macedonia, Montenegro, and Serbia. There is a permanent sentiment of being left behind and tremendous philological pressures that people in Bosnia and Herzegovina suffer when not being able to freely move around. Such a frustration makes them even more distant from other Europeans, and it is evident that the process should run the other way around. However, I must say that the most of responsibility lies within the hands of politicians that need to advance quickly with fulfillment of assignments from the roadmap. As we stand today, the most realistic scenario would be that the EU presents Bosnia and Herzegovina liberalized visa regime mid-next year. Generally speaking about EU integration, it is important to improve coordination among a large number of players in Bosnia and Herzegovina that are involved in this process. Also, another challenge is to inform the public and raise the awareness on the importance of the European integration. We strive to continuously strengthen human capacities capable of fulfilling all tasks deriving from the process. Association of the Western Balkan countries in the EU is the process that has no alternative. For us, since we want to contribute to and enjoy the prosperity of the community, and for the European Union, because it will not be completed without including the Western Balkans that is in peace, democratic and prosperous. EU membership perspective is, without any doubt, the main motivating force for the implementation of comprehensive reforms, which should be based on dialogue and making compromises. Bosnia and Herzegovina has been facing some difficult and complex reforms, but progress has been achieved in a number of areas. We remain committed to European ideas and values, and we are firmly committed to join the European Union once the preconditions have been met. In spite of the fact that it is a long road, all in Bosnia and Herzegovina agree that the European perspective is crucial for long-lasting peace and stability. We hope that the European Union will leave its door open for Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is of the utmost importance that the membership perspective remains clear and the enlargement process continues at the same pace. With such a prospect, ongoing reforms and adoption of European standards could be swiftly sustained. Bosnia and Herzegovina has become an example of successful internationally communities post-war involvement that enabled recipient country to recover and develop its own capacities. At present, Bosnia and Herzegovina is getting more active role at regional and international level, and it stands ready to share its own experiences on an effective way of cooperation with the international community in building stability and prosperity to its own peoples. In support of that idea, Bosnia and Herzegovina submitted its candidature for the non-permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council for the period 2010-2011. 183 countries gave support to Bosnia and Herzegovina that will, as of January 1st, 2010, represent the Eastern European group of countries in the United Nations. Membership of the United Nations Security Council also enables Bosnia and Herzegovina, as a multi-ethnic and multicultural country with rich historical heritage, to transfer the know-how it has gained throughout the process of post-conflict peace building and strengthening trust between different communities. However, being a part of the world government will bring additional and huge responsibilities to the authorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Without any doubt, we shall be forced to act differently and establish a mechanism for efficient decision-making. Certainly, such a role would pose a great test for politicians who will be forced to demonstrate accountability and maturity. We will be in position to define our position and deliver our own decisions without calling on the High Representative to display his powers. One might conclude that a huge challenge lies ahead of us. Bosnia and Herzegovina is committed to fulfillment of our international obligations, including those contained in the Dayton Peace Accords. As confirmed by the prosecutor of the International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia, the authorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina have been fully cooperating with the ICTY and continue to submit relevant documents as well as to provide insight to its archives. Improvement of regional cooperation in different areas aimed at achieving standards for joining the Euro-Atlantic structures by countries individually and by the region as a whole is one of the top priorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are committed to the development of regional capacities and regional ownership that is evident through doing of the Regional Cooperation Council placed in Sarajevo. By playing a constructive role and contributing to development of good and friendly neighborly relations, Bosnia and Herzegovina actively participates in a number of initiatives aimed at enhancement of regional cooperation in line with principles of equality, mutual respect, and respect of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Success of our partners from the region is a great incentive for us to continue on the same path and complete necessary reforms. Economic development has been challenged by a global crisis, and consequently, we are experiencing a slowdown of the growth rate. Council of Ministers adopted a set of measures to cope with the situation and strives to preserve macroeconomic stability and moderate its negative impact. We asked for international assistance, and the International Monetary Fund approved a standby arrangement of Euro 1.2 billion. Despite of the crisis, we shouldn't forget our international priorities and obligations, and we intend to continue our investment into world's peace and stability. We are aware that without that, there could be no economic recovery and progress. Strategic goal of all parties in Bosnia and Herzegovina is to become a full-fledged member of Euro-Atlantic institutions. In order to do so, it has to be a modern and democratic state that will grant all their citizens better life, respect of their human rights, and the rule of law. The ongoing and upcoming reforms should serve to that aim. However, we are coping with some difficult issues and seek to find adequate solutions acceptable for all. Goals are clear, but there are different views on how to achieve them. One of the obstacles is the Office of the High Representative that needs to be closed. This is a special office created through Dayton Agreement, the office who would implement and control the civil aspects of the life in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That is something very special for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and you will never find this nowhere. That is a precondition for accomplishment of a real democratic state in which politicians deliver and implement their own decisions. I would like to express my conviction that the Office of the High Representative should terminate its mandate this year. Of course, it should be transformed to the Office of the European Union Special Representative to Bosnia and Herzegovina that should enable politicians to take over burdens and responsibilities in their own hands. I am sure that such a transformation would create an atmosphere in which politicians would be forced to act differently, to intensively talk, negotiate and make compromises. After all, full responsibility should lie in hands of democratically elected authorities. I hope you would agree that it would be a rather peculiar situation for Bosnia and Herzegovina to hold a seat in the United Nations Security Council and the High Representative submitting reports on Bosnia and Herzegovina twice a year to that same body. Peace Implementation Council, established at the London Peace Conference in 1995, tasked to review and evaluate progress in peace implementation, has set out 5 goals and 2 conditions to be met before the closure of the Office of the High Representative. One of the 5 goals was resolved when the Parliament of Bosnia and Herzegovina adopted amendments to the Constitution that regulate the status of Brčko district within the constitutional framework. Previously, we signed a Stabilization and Association Agreement which makes 1 goal and 1 condition completely fulfilled. As far as the others are concerned, like property issue, fiscal sustainability, rule of law and improvement of political situation, this is a work that is underway with some or no results. Constitutional reforms represent the major challenge. So-called April package from 2006 represented a sound base for such endeavor. However, it was not passed by the Parliament, and ever since we have been coping with this issue. The aim of the constitutional reform is to create more functional and efficient state that could more easily respond to Euro-Atlantic requirements. Bearing in mind that general elections in BNH will be held in late 2010, it's apparent that 2009, actually the 2 months, represents the unique opportunity for completion of this reform. Another problem is that some see this particular reform as essential for other reforms. I consider that people should tackle agreeable issues first, and by reaching agreements, they would certainly create so much needed positive atmosphere to resolve the issue of the Constitution. Some need to give up on their maximum demands and demonstrate goodwill to reach a compromise. Recently, the European Union and the United States have initiated a series of meetings aimed at making any progress. The first round of talks ended without success, but dialogue is to be continued. I believe that such a dialogue should be led by domestic politicians and that no foreign involvement is needed. Keys of success lie in our own hands. It will be an absurd situation to take part in making decisions of global importance in the Security Council and in parallel to continuously call for international assistance and mediation when complex internal decisions are to be made. Allow me to briefly mention an issue of census. The last census in Bosnia and Herzegovina was executed in 1991. One group of politicians thinks that the next census should take place in 2011, and that people should be given the opportunity to declare, among other things, their ethnic belonging and religion. However, there is a strong opposition to that proposal, obviously because it would reveal a real portrait of the country. It would verify that there are areas and cities in Bosnia and Herzegovina that they are not multi-ethnic as some try to present them. And may I underline once again that due to heavy burden of history and complex relationships between ethnic and religious groups, nothing in Bosnia and Herzegovina should be imposed, but rather settled and mutual agreement. The same is with extremely sensitive national identity building process. Negative attitudes should be transformed to a better use. In other words, to create self-governing state and long-lasting stability. However, interethnic insecurity cannot disappear overnight, nor the transformation could be quick. Interference in issues such as education, language, or writing a history may actually contribute to persistence of ethnic boundaries. Feelings of different ethnic and religious groups in Bosnia and Herzegovina are still fragile. But at the same time, solutions lie in their hands. They should vote for political options that would make the economy more important than the matter of ethnic or any other belonging. In such situation, I am most certain that everybody in Bosnia and Herzegovina would be proud to declare his or her nationality. At present circumstances, imposing and insisting would bring no good, but rather the opposite. In addition to that, I would like to remind you of an enormous cultural, linguistic, and religious diversity of the European Union. It has 27 member states, 23 official languages, with 3 alphabets. The European Union enlargement increased diversity in cultural, economic, and political terms. One of the aims of the European Union's motto, United in Diversity, established in 2000, is to spread and promote the idea of diversities in the European Union and to ensure that its cultural heritage is safeguarded and enhanced. Also, it is a strong soft power tool and incentive for future member states. For that reason, it is a paradox situation where at home, third parties, including the European Union, promote diversity, and in Bosnia and Herzegovina, they advocate for unification. Such an attitude has to change. The European Union should use its soft power to preserve and encourage varieties in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and perhaps to help us out to channel them better. Differences should not be recognized as our handicap, but rather as our advantage. In my conclusion, I would like to underline that Bosnia and Herzegovina faces many challenges, and I am convinced that their resolution lies in compromises. The reality seems to be difficult, but I tend to be an optimist for the sake of my countrymen and my children. We all need to give up a little in order to gain a lot as a community. Furthermore, we belong to Europe. We belong to the family of Europeans with whom we share the same values and culture. We shouldn't be left behind or excluded. Our vision of where we want to be is absolutely clear. We will remain committed to our goals. Also, we need the support of our Euro-Atlantic partners and friends for continuation of integration processes. Keeping the door open, or in other words, maintaining the Euro-Atlantic perspective, will keep us on the right track and help us to bring more efforts and speed up necessary reforms. So thank you very much for your attention.
Sure. Thank you very, very much for the very fascinating presentation. We have time for one round of questions. So I would suggest maybe we can take 3 questions, and then if you'd agree, you can then give us one response to those 3 questions. My colleague here has a wireless microphone. So please, if there are any questions, please just raise your hand. It looks like you're in the front.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I think I'm one of those who follow with some sympathy the development in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and who would really like to see the story succeed. That's why I was even more disappointed to recently talk to somebody who is on the ground in Bosnia and who told me that there is a vast feeling of disappointment in saying that what Dayton did in '95 was really freeze a conflict rather than solve it, and that pending the solving of that conflict, it's difficult to see how real progress can be made. Now, I really like the notion that you said, why promote diversity on a European level, but unity in your country. Obviously, the counter-argument would be that diversity requires to be at ease with the neighbor, like Poland, Germany, and France. Well, if you're not at ease with your own neighbor, what's diversity good for? So, perhaps not a specific question, but what's your views, your thoughts on those propositions?
Well, I would just a small remark you mentioned now in your question. There are lots of the foreigners, and even we in the country, that we are at the moment that we are not satisfied. We would like some things to be much quicker and much better. And this is, of course, this is in human nature, that every day you want to be better. But looking to Bosnia and Herzegovina, I would really like to stress, just, having on mind where we were in '96, that the horrible war has been stopped, and now it's 2009. Just 15 years. This is excellent movie. So sometimes daily pictures and daily photographs from Bosnia and Herzegovina doesn't seem good, nice. But if you're looking Bosnia and Herzegovina as a movie, the movie is good. And really historically looking, 15 years, it's nothing. For us who are living there, for people who are helping us, 15 years means something in your life. But sooner or later, when someone is going to write the history, such achievement in 15 years, as I mentioned now, how many soldiers we have, that we are now in front of the NATO door, that we signed the association agreement. So this is excellent. Your real question about diversity in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this is the kind of the momentum that we are sometimes using in wrong direction. I belong to the group that we should use our diversities and as country, multi-ethnic, multi-religion, everything, that we would be more interesting to European Union. The idea of creating, let's say, a new nation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, making us to forget on our diversities, I don't think. First, it's not in accordance with European values that I talked now, and this shouldn't solve the problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
If I may, a little follow-up question. If I remember correctly, a high representative or high function politician in Bosnia and Herzegovina recently denied one of the historical, what many people would call massacres. What was the internal reaction to his statement?
That was in the parliament. Parliament at the moment denied, but again, I would go in these 15 years. We should be at one moment, so you have several generations as Arafat. You have the completely new generation, as I would say my generation, that we are ready to face such problems, but we are still not in the parliament. So some things will be solved also by the change of generation. That's for sure. I didn't see because of the light. I understand.
Thank you for your very interesting presentation. I have a question about the constitutional reform. I mean, obviously, already at the conclusion of the Dayton consultations and negotiations, Izetbegovic said that this is not a just peace, but it's better than a continuation of war. How would you assess realistically the chances of constitutional reform, and with a view to the elections next year? How important do you think is the role that a multi-ethnic party like Naša Stranka could play in this process?
Well, some constitutional changes will happen till the end of this year. We need to do the constitutional changes in a way. We need to harmonize the present constitution. Actual Dayton Agreement as still our constitution, so we need to harmonize Dayton constitution with European Convention for Human Rights. So it's going to be some changes in the way how we will elect the president of the Bosnia and Herzegovina, and it seems what is also the good news that we are going to have more parliamentarians at the state level and the Bosnia and Herzegovina level, because at the moment we have only 42 parliamentarians, what is really such a small number, because we have every day more and more laws from the European Union that we need to harmonize with our laws, with our situation. So that's something, and for sure, and having in mind that next year is the election year, so these two things will be something positive. And with more parliamentarians, that is at the moment very, very crucial, we could faster and more quicker implement stabilization and association agreement. We have election 2010. We do hope that we are going to see the new faces, political faces after the elections, and then for sure we are going and we need to continue with the constitutional reforms, with the constitutional changes, because as I clearly told, and this is our main goal, European Union and NATO, we will need to do this to be able to adopt ourselves into the new systems. And that naša stranka, the question of you can't influence on people how to vote. We still have. But this is also the process, and this is democracy, and we are learning, and we are going through all kind of the democracy processes. Media plays a big role still in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Print media, broadcasting media, and because of the economy situation, fresh memories, people are still very oriented. Fortunately, unfortunately, but I would always justify this as the process that is necessary that we need go through. They're justified on their ethnicity, and they would rather vote for the same politicians that they belong than to some new political phase with a clear economy program. But, you know, I just really justifying this as the process that we need to go through, and hopefully through some things we will go more faster, because our neighbors are really running towards the European Union. Croatia is doing excellently. They are very, very close. Serbia also speed up their processes, so we can't stay as the only country in the middle, Bosnia and Herzegovina, so far behind them. And as I also told in this presentation, we liked when our neighbors are doing good towards the European Union and NATO, because we want them to catch them and to follow them.
Yes, my question is with regard with the national reconciliation in Bosnia-Herzegovina. I come from a country called Lebanon. Lebanon, which has been through civil strife from 1975 till 1990. And this is a country where 18 communities, confessions lived side by side, coexisted. Then we had this tragic civil war, and the war ended in 1990. So there are some parallels, if you wish, between Bosnia-Herzegovina and Lebanon in terms of the ethnic or religious composition. Serbs, Bosniaks, and Croats. And lots of atrocities were committed in Bosnia, and with the Dayton Accords, as you mentioned. Peace was brought about in Bosnia. But what has been done concretely in terms of national soul searching, in terms of national dialogue, and in terms of national reconciliation, especially you underline the fact that you want to be part of Europe. I mean, but there are some preconditions, and the sine qua non condition perhaps is, did you actually achieve this national reconciliation of yours? think that in Lebanon we couldn't do it. I mean, we're having great difficulties achieving that. So my question is, what has been done concretely in terms of national reconciliation?
This is undergoing process, and that process will go for the next 10, 20, 30 years. As I mentioned, new generation now, we have now completely new generation, after Dayton generation, after Yugoslav, after communist generation, that their mindset is, I could see that already completely different. I don't like to say that one of the reasons why we want to be the part of European Union as soon as possible, and being a part of European Union that is going to stabilize and to solve things like national consideration, we are all the same, not to think. We need to do this in our own country, and we need to do this as we. But the thing with Bosnia and Herzegovina is also that our neighbors, the Croatia and Serbia, because they are on their way to European Union, they don't interfere anymore in the life in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina now, finally, they are alone, without interference from those two neighboring countries. So we can solve, we will never solve this, and we always need to take care about and have in mind these diversities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are working lots of an education system together with the international community. We need to improve our education system. We need to implement, and we need to have some new subjects in our school for this younger generation, that they will be able to cope, to understand diversity in Bosnia and Herzegovina, to understand their colleagues from Islam religion, to understand their friends from vice versa Christian, to understand Orthodox, Jews. And this is the process that I don't think that ever will be finished. But the burdens from the past will be for sure, because of the time, because as I told you, new generation, the burdens from the past will be overcome much more easier. And I see the education as the most important also now things in Bosnia and Herzegovina after our aspiration and to be the full member of the European Union and to be the full member of the NATO. The education should be the third tax in the country on which we need to work a lot. And I like your country, I've been, but you know, from time to time someone is comparing us with the Lebanon, and I still don't want to believe that we will finish and that it's going to happen like that. Okay.
Thank you very, very much.